As you've probably seen, we're starting a little project here. I'm using that 284, and I went up to my local 1,000-yard Benchrest club, and in order to fit in a light gun class, I needed to lose some weight. So the chassis was too heavy. It put me about 17 pounds, 11 ounces, and that was using a lighter weight scope as well. So I did a little digging around. I found this fellow actually on Facebook. He had this stock for sale, and I ended up purchasing it from him. It's hanging there right now. I actually put a little clear coat on it, clear lacquer. Tack ragged it off and put some clear lacquer on that thing to kind of seal it up a little bit before I started getting my fingerprints and oils from my hands and stuff in it. Because I'm going to try to put a nice high gloss finish on this thing. But I've got some other work to do to it. Ended up using a bat trigger guard, so it's machined out for that. That fits in there nicely. I got one of the Limb Savers grind to fit butt pad, so I'll have to grind to fit that. I've weighed everything, and looks like we're coming in right underneath that 17 pounds, so we should be good. The scope I ended up putting on there was a Night Force competition scope, and that was heavier than the one I was using, so hopefully this is all going to work out. So we're going to have to do a little work on the stock. I gotta relieve a little bit on the edge for my bolt release and my port. My port's on the left hand side. Then on the other side, I gotta remove some wood too for my bolt handle. And we're also going to pillar bed and bed this thing. And hopefully this will all work out. And I'll walk you guys right through this step by step as I'm doing it. I have to use some bronze hose barbs to bed this thing. To pillar bed this thing. So we're going to give that a whirl. Taping stuff off. JB Weld, this is what's going to hold it all together. We got some clay to fill in some of our spots. The action is actually a magazine style. It's got a hole in the bottom of the action. It's not a single shot. So I'm going to try, while I bed this thing, I'm going to actually try to raise the spot in between the port for the magazine, and I'll show you how I've got planned to do that. So I'll just be able to single load and go from there. So hopefully this will all work out. I got a bunch of sandpaper, different grits, plenty of lacquer, and we're going to try to make it look pretty, and hopefully this will all work out. All right, we're in my workshop right now. Excuse the mess. Probably hear the lights buzzing. But the first thing I want to do is cut this relief. You see I've got my button here for my bolt release. So I'm going to have to drop it down a little bit for that, and my port is actually below that a little bit. So I've got it marked right here, and I'm going to take my router, set my router up, and I'm going to cut from there probably all the way back, and I'm probably only going to pull off about maybe 1/8 of an inch and see how that works. Alright, looks like our 1/8 of an inch was plenty. Plenty of room on that, right even with the port. So I'd say we're good to go. Now we're just going to have to create a relief here for our bolt handle, and then we'll get on to our pillar bedding. perfect. Collar will help guide these things in, keep me centered up. I'm just a hair bit bigger than my bolts, so I won't be using the bolts as a recoil lug. And I'll just set these in there, trim them to length, and off to the races. Those will get bolted onto the action, glued up, and set down in there so that they're straight before I do anything else with it. I'm just trying to keep this as straight and in the channel as I can. Okay, I've leveled this this board. Didn't take much. My bench is pretty level. Had to shim it a little bit, but I got this level, so the bottom of our stock is actually sitting level. And I'm going to check our action here and make sure that's level. And we're spot on. So our action is in there straight up and down with our stock. And this is our dry fit up before actually putting some epoxy on there. The pillars are on there already, and all I got to do is just strip some stuff off, put some wax on things that don't stick, and epoxy it up. A little clay to play with. I'm filling in all my little holes where my pins and whatnot go through. Every place I don't want that bedding compound, it's got to have something in it. And this stuff makes it easy to fill that up. And then I'll just wax over that so it don't stick to the clay. Gives us a nice finish. Nothing worse than trying to dig epoxy, dried epoxy out of little holes that you don't need that stuff in. So we're going to make sure we get it filled up pretty good so we don't have that problem. Alright, here's what I think I'm going to try. Remember I said about this thing being not being a single action, and I wanted to try to epoxy this up while I was bedding it. I've got a little piece of PVC plumbing pipe that happens to fit in there, and it's at the right angle for this. So I'm going to try to put some clay around here to fill off these gaps, and wax all that up and lay epoxy in there as I lay it down in the stock, and hopefully I'll get a nice little channel like that where I can just set my cartridges in there and run my bolt rod in. That's what I'm thinking. Could be a nightmare. Let's find out. Well, here we think we are. You see, I've got that molded in there, and that's all waxed up. Our little holes are closed. I put a little extra around for the runover, which I'm just going to try to wipe off. We've got our lug tape there. I'm going to have that lug as tight as I can get it. I've got pretty much wax on my screws, not on my pillars. And I have scuffed these pillars up with some 60 grit, try to get some bite on them. Kind of got that closed off. So I'm just going to try to fill this in and then fill in my stock there. And when I lay that into my stock, hopefully it'll all run together and stick together. That's the plan right now. So now we're on to prepping the stock. And now for the stock. You saw me earlier, I threaded these holes so that I have threads in there to help grab a hold of my epoxy. And I've got a piece of pipe that just so happens to be the same size as that receiver. And I've got some 60, so I'm going to try to wrap this 60 around this thing and give me a little scuff right in here where I'm going to be laying that epoxy to give me a better grip on here. Alright, I've got a little tape on my stock. Got it down in this channel pretty good because I don't want anything running down in there. I'm going to wet this thing up pretty good. I got my trigger hole clayed off. I don't need any epoxy down in that thing. I'm going to try to lay a bunch in here to accommodate my barrel thing here that I'm going to try to deal with. So I think I'm ready to start mixing up some epoxy. I got that scuffed pretty rough inside there. I guess it's epoxy time. A dry fit up before we actually start epoxy stuff. I just want to make sure everybody's looking pretty good. Got my pillars in there. Got everything blocked off that needs blocked off. I got, I don't know if you noticed, I got tape on the end of this barrel here to help center up this channel. I've got everything waxed pretty good and wiped off where it needs to be wiped off. Tang's looking pretty good. I got most of it. Let's see if we get the same amount. They say this stuff's a little thin and you have to wait for it to thicken up some to be able to use it for this, but I don't know. I've usually found it to be kind of firm, workable. So we'll just have to see. how it goes. Great, and I get it all over my shirt. I'm sure that'll come out. So I've got plenty of paper towels ready. I've got a bunch of Q-tips. I think I have enough emergency oopses handled and covered. You never know what the hell's going to happen, except for the shirt. Well, that looks like it's mixed pretty good. It's kind of thick. So let's just start laying it in there and see what happens. I'll fill up this whole lug area. Of course, we can't forget our little channel for our barrel. Come on, make a mess. I want that to be a little proud so it sticks together with this stuff without weeping back down. I'm pulling away from my little PVC there. And we're going to blob a bunch right there to make sure it doesn't do that. This shit's probably going to ooze everywhere. I've got a lot of it in here. But as they say, it's better to have more than not enough. This should help the having this much in here should help with not getting voids as bad or air pockets. Alright, let's get some in the my holes where I threaded those holes in there with that tap. I definitely want those pillars to stick real good. And now we want to get some on those pillars. Working into those grooves real good. Nice and sloppy. I don't know. Here goes nothing. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We've got plenty in there. Let me see if I can wipe off some of this excess real quick. Here's where you find out if you've got enough wax on everything. I'm betting it won't be the first time that somebody's actually glued their gun into a stock and never got it back out. So if that's what happens here, at least we'll have it on video. let's get our clamps on there and finish sinking that sucker in. Actually, I want to put that on the other side. It's in there. Now let's just start wiping off some of this excess we got on here. And just kind of cleans a lot of that up as I can. Well, that was pretty easy. I just kind of ran the screw in the bottom, propped up underneath it, and gave it a few whacks with a dead blow. Let's see what we got. Come right out, nice. Got a few little pieces sticking on there that'll have to clean up. Knock all my clay out of there. Bedding looks really nice. Looks like my little channel may be working. Let me get you in here so you can see that maybe. See, this is the raised piece I wanted for my single shot action there. But I just need to trim a little bit on these edges. File these edges down a little bit. See, our pillars are working, doing their job. And I think it worked out pretty damn good. This is kind of a long barrel to be trying this with, but this is one way you can tell if you've got a good bedding done on this or not, is if you can actually pick the gun up without the action falling out. Let's Let's see if you can see this. If I get this camera still. There's the piece I was talking about. The raised piece. For I can just set the shell on there and run my bolt and it goes right in. I'll get this thing screwed in and show you a little demo of that with a dummy round. But that's what I was trying to achieve at the same time while I was bedding that. But there's a bedding job. I did a little bit of sanding right here to kind of knock some of these rough edges off. I've got to do a little cleanup right in here. And a little cleanup down in there, not much. And then we can start sanding and clearing this this stock and see how shiny we can get it. A little bit more. Much better. Cool. I just kind of had to take my time with my little Dremel to make sure I cut that okay. Make sure it cleared. My little raised pad turned out pretty good. That's basically designed to just clear the bolt. It's concave there, so I can set my shell in there, which sits right in the bottom of my little bolt tray here. Just drop it in there, it sits on there, run the bolt in, and off we go. So I don't have to worry about single loading this thing, but looks like it turned out pretty good. We got a little bit of clear on it. Probably going to get some more on there and give it a little buff and see what it does. Now let's see if I can show you what I was talking about with my little bedding job there to raise that floor up. This is a dummy round. See, it's got a fired primer in it. It's just the size comparison. But with that channel in there, see if I get a little light in there for you. You see how it kind of matches up. It's like I actually have a floor in there. And I can just set my round in there, and off I go. So I don't have to worry about fooling around with the round. I just set it in, set my next round in there, fold it over, and off we go. £16, 9 ounces, not bad. That puts me into a decent spot. Of course, that's with my scale. Half a pound is probably a pretty good safe spot, I would think. Like I said before, the main reason I went with this setup was to get down into that light class for the 1,000-yard Benchrest guys. I also shoot it in F class, and the minimum weight on that's 22 pounds. So I have an idea of a system that I can come in from the back of this thing and add 4 pounds if I need to. So when I go out and shooting my mid-range F-class, for now, I can throw in a little bit more weight and still be legal. The stock is working out perfect. This setup is better than I could have asked for. I see now why everybody shoots these kind of stocks, because they do what they're supposed to do. It's stable. It's real stable. The gun, I free recoil this gun. You probably saw. I just let it free recoil. It comes straight back. It doesn't do anything funky. I can chamber it without the gun moving around. I've got that double stitch rear bag on there. That's a 3-inch wide front bag. I'm using that heavy iron sand, heavy sand. And that seems to make things a lot more stable. The gun returns, I can just simply push it back up, and I'm practically on my point of aim again, so I can just make a minor adjustment and shoot it again. And that's kind of one of the things I need to be able to do, is be able to send 5 shots down range pretty quick. Try to get it in a weather condition where the wind is doing the same while I'm shooting. The butt stock I got from Limb Saber. That was a grind to fit. That was kind of interesting. It took me a minute to kind of get the feel of how that thing wanted to be cut. I basically just kind of set it up on there, drew an outline on it, and just snuck up to it with my 60 grit sandpaper. The screws, I got the trigger guard from Bat, and I also got action screws at the same time. I wasn't sure which ones to get. I got the long and the short, like the standard long and short action screws. Well, the short one's too short and the long one's too long. So what I ended up doing was using the short one up front, and I just basically kind of countersunk it a little bit where I had enough thread in there. The long one went in the back, and I just basically ground the screw down to where it wasn't sticking out so far. So that is a quarter 28 pitch thread, so it's kind of a bastard from what we're used to. The gun stuff is probably, that's a normal number, but us car guys and normal hardware guys, that's a bastard number. The stock, he's got the front of the stock. It's hollowed out here, so it's kind of riding up on the edges of the sandbag, so you don't, when the gun is doing this stuff and you're chambering it and moving it around, it doesn't have a tendency to pack the sand all up in the middle and high center the stock, so it's wobbling. So that is a nice setup. The scope, we got this Night Force competition scope. It's 15 by 55 power. 8th minute adjust. I was out shooting it today at 100 yards, and I tried to crank it up to 55. Well, maybe it'll be a little better once I can get out in some range, but 100 yards, that's a lot of magnification. But I did shoot it. I got it zeroed in. I did do a tall target test on it. So I got the scope set up. The rings I got were Night Force rings. There again, I'm trying to stay with the lightweight. They're aluminum rings, and I believe they have titanium caps on them. They were kind of expensive. I did take my Wheeler lapping tool and run my lapping tool in there with a little bit of compound on it, just to see if these guys were true, and they were. That's probably the first time I've seen some rings that they were actually right. Of course, that's the first time I spent that much money on a set of rings. Other than that, everything turned out better than what I expected. The fellow I got the stock from, Jason Avila, I'll put his name and stuff down below there, and contact information. If you're wanting one of these stocks to get a little lighter weight for Benchrest or for F-class, that's right in the middle of everything there. Give him a call, see what colors he's got, and have him, he'll spit you one out. He's got one of those 4-axis CNC computerized mill things. I think he's got a program on there. He can just cut them out after he's got the wood. But he's got a bunch of different colors and stuff. Great guy to work with. Sent him a bunch of money and he sent me a stock, so no problems there. Quick, it was quick. I've been looking around for stocks for a while, and everybody's talking, this long and that long and way too damn long. And he's like, yeah, I'll do it for you as soon as I get the money. Boom, next day it was done. Next thing I know, it's in the mail coming to me. So good thing to do there. Like I said, I'll put his information. If you got any kind of questions or anything you want to ask, drop something in the comments. I usually answer most of the questions I get down in there. I think he starting price is about $620 for a blank stock. It's not inlet, but it's all cut, and I believe that includes shipping. And of course, if he does any inlet work in there or anything, it'll go up from there. But you just have to talk to him. That's about all I've really got to say. Things shooting great. The return to point of aim is what I was after, and that's what I got. The under 17 pounds is what I was after, and I got that too. So double thumbs up on that, and we'll catch you next time.